Good evening, Garden City. I'd like to call to order regular City Council meeting for Monday, August 26th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Our first order of business is our opening ceremony, which consists of the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for those service members who have given their lives for our country. If everyone would please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, if you take roll, please.
Mayor Jacobs.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dold.
Present.
Councilmember Karafotis.
Here.
Councilmember Squires.
Here.
Councilmember Earl.
Show Councilmember Earl absent and excused.
Councilmember Witt.
Here.
Councilmember Lynch. You have a quorum of 6.
Thank you. Item 4 is the approval of the agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Monday, August 26, 2024 council meeting agenda as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Comments from table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We have no recognitions tonight. I don't see any county or state officials. We do have a presentation. I'll come down there. I'd like to call Candy from Villa Bakery up. Channel 4 had a contest, and Villa Bakery was voted the best bakery in Metro Detroit. So we have recognition. It says, congratulations. The City Council of Garden City, Michigan wishes to congratulate Villa Bakery on being voted best bakery in Metro Detroit and for 60 years in business in the city. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'd also like to give her a Garden City sweatshirt.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Can the girls come up?
What's
Can
that?
the girls come up?
Absolutely. Girls, come on up. Candy would like some of her,
Her staff did come to
staff.
support her. I think if we'd like to get one picture with the staff, Candy, and the mayor, we'll get a picture there. Okay. Watch your step and kind of come around. Some ladies on this side. Thank you. We want to be able to see your face. If you can see the camera, we're good. Okay?
Just you in the back, just move to that side. Just want to see your face. One more. Yep, there you go. You can't even just a little bit that way. Awesome. Ready? Everyone see me? Ready? 3, 2.
also, as a special treat, Villa Bakery presented all of us in the room here tonight a tray of treats, cookies, and baked goods from the bakery. They're right there on the way out of the door if you would like to grab one and partake in that, and we'll enjoy all those treats from Candy and the Villa Bakery and the staff. Thank you.
We might have people rushing in to get them.
We may. So,
Okay,
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fine.
Item number 8 is community events, Chili Cook-Off Community Festival. Mr. Miller.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and the community. I just wanted to do a little presentation about the Chili Cook-Off Community Festival that's coming up on Saturday, September 7th. So the screen is showing you the graphics. Our graphics team, we've been working real hard on putting together new and exciting graphics for this event. Again, Saturday, September 7th, it begins with the open house at between 10 and 3. That is going to be at City Hall for open houses, and then our timeline, which shows the beer tent, the chili tent, live music from noon until 10, and the awards are going to be at 4 p.m. The next slide just shows kind of a whole timeline of the day. Of course, you can read that beginning really at 9 o'clock. We're going to have the car and motorcycle show registration is open. And then, of course, beginning at 10 to 3 is the police department open house, the fire department open house, and also the DPW Touch-A-Truck that's going to be at City Hall. They're going to have a lot of the big trucks out there for kids to climb on, touch a truck, and see how all of that works. 11 o'clock, the beer tent opens with ticket sales. We're also going to have a cornhole tournament. And then the judging of the chili will begin at 11:30 a.m. We do have a special guest judge is Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson is coming to the city to be one of the judges for the chili. We also have children's activities, free mini golf at Garden City Mini Golf, and then the bands will begin in the after all of that. So far, we have 9 teams signed up for chili cook-off time. So we've got the 9 teams listed there. So that will be 9 selections to go from and choose from to pick the best chili. And then also we've been working on getting sponsorships for the event. So I just wanted to show all of the sponsors that are up there. Special thank you to, of course, Garden City Business Alliance, Jenny's Pierogies, J&J Taxes, Friends Auto, All Phases, Ceiling and Carpentry, Garden City Pawn, the Bocelli Group, Hennessy Engineering, Garden City Hospital, Incorporate Graphics, Nankin Transit, and King Cone have all been sponsors to support the community event. Also, one of the items with the Secretary of State coming is she's bringing a mobile service, a mobile office to us that day. So we'll have a mobile Secretary of State office here. You'll be able to get a first-time ID, renew your driver's license or ID, transfer titles, apply for a new or get a renewal of a disability placard. So another service there that she's bringing with us that'll be good for the community to come, and we won't have to go wait in line at the Secretary of State. You can come right to Garden City to that festival site. I did also want to say the band times, the band set list. Beginning at noon, from noon to 1:30 is Bonnie and the Working Girls. From 2 to 4, Hear Me Out. 5 to 7:30 is the Incurables. And 8 until 10 is Maybe June, the band there. And then the next couple slides, just as a kind of, if you can see on the screen, is just a layout of how everything will be. We'll also have Nankin Transit service from the high school, and we'll be able to do that pickup off of Ford Road down in the south. We're gonna have the chili tents. We're also going to have craft vendors. Some of our vendors from the Lucky Squirrel are going to be participating. Some food vendors, food trucks will be there also. And of course, the car show, motorcycle show, children's activities will be there, a rock climbing wall, all of that. And then the next slide is showing you where everything at City Hall will be at our complex here with the fire station. Fire station's under construction, so we're going to have that on the front lawn of City Hall, the Touch a Truck event, and then the police department open house. All the departments have been working together to make sure that is a good day for everybody here at the city and give you lots to do. And then, of course, the next is kind of showing the kids' activities, rock wall and climbers and jumpers. And again, I want to encourage anybody that can volunteer to volunteer. We are looking for volunteers to work the event. And if you can't volunteer, please come and enjoy your time in downtown Garden City on Saturday, September 7th. So thank you.
Thank you. We have no petitions or communications, no public hearings. Item 11 is the consent agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A 1 through 8, including 8AI, as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Further comments from table?
I would like to just mention on there for Ruth Short, I put there in memoriam. Ruth was a mainstay in the community. She had worked for many years for elections at the thrift shop. She was on the Board of Review. She still is serving on the Board of Review, and she passed away at 94 years young, I believe. And I just want to put on there, of course, to remember Ruth. She was really a wonderful woman and really a lover of the city. So our condolences to her family. And of course, her time on the Board of Review was well deserved to the city, and she believed in giving back to the city, and she did so right up into the end. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further comments from table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Action items. Item number 1, City Park Improvements Agreement. Ms. Erica Smith, our Parks and Rec Director.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This evening, I am back to follow up on last meeting's motion where you approved the project, the Playground Addition project at City Park for the Wayne County millage funds. Tonight's agenda item is to approve the contract and the agreement with Wayne County. Once the agreement is signed and returned to the county, then we'll have secured the funding and we will go ahead and order that equipment. Currently, so this is the last step in this process. The wait time for playground equipment right now is about 6 months, so this would be a spring installation.
Okay, thank you. Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement between the Charter County of Wayne and the City of Garden City for improvements to City Park.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Discussion from the table. From the public. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 2 is the Radcliffe roof replacement. Ms. Smith.
Okay, I'm very pleased to be here to present the recommended bid for the Radcliffe roof replacement. In your packet, you will have seen we had 8 bids come in. And the low bid of $1,372,765, which has met all our requirements and is the recommended bid from our consultant. So therefore, we're looking for council to award the bid to MTD Construction, which will authorize us to move ahead, placing a 50% deposit in initial payment. I also just wanted to take a moment and talk about the environmental review because I have stressed before that that does limit the type of work we're able to do currently over at Radcliffe because awarding a bid is considered a choice limiting action. However, in this case, the roof replacement does qualify as an emergency maintenance. So you'll have seen I expanded a little bit on the history. I think most of you are aware of some of the issues. But the chronic nature of the leaks, the ongoing disruptions, you know, the damage that occurs every time it rains, these have been well documented by staff involving DPW and other contractors. So with all of that documentation, we feel very comfortable bringing it forward to move ahead on and still keep us eligible for our grant.
you. Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Squires.
I move to award the roofing contract with MTD Construction for repair and replacement of the Radcliffe roof in the amount of $1,372,765. That includes a 50% down payment and materials payment.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Carefotis. Discussion from the table.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
I know it's in here, but maybe if you could let the public know what the anticipated start and completion dates are?
Yep. We believe I think September 9th was the latest. I think in the contract, they said the 16th, but we've had some communication that they're going to be able to start a little bit sooner, so they're waiting on materials to come in situation. They're hoping that it wraps up like end of April, October, early November. But, some of that, we just have to wait and see what weather brings them. But they are ready to go, and we are so excited.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Councilmember Carefotis.
so the 50% down, that puts us where we need to be with the 70% of the grant spent by
Yep, so
October?
that is definitely pushing us towards that other marker that we are working on very aggressively. We'll be processing these payments and getting all of that paperwork done on our end. We'll still have a portion that we need to, but we have all of September and October to continue.
Okay, you're pretty sure we're going to get there?
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
Further discussion from the table. From the public. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 3, thank you, Ms. Smith. Item 3 is a zoning ordinance amendment, C2, community business. Mr. Ortega.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Before you tonight is a proposed zoning ordinance amendment from the Planning Commission regarding economic development issues. At the last joint meeting that was held between the City Council, the DDA, and the Planning Commission, there was discussion about creating new development opportunities and also ways that could also address, create investment in property that has been longstanding vacant property in the city. The Planning Commission, the Planning Department actually has been receiving throughout this calendar year several various inquiries regarding both car wash new development and gas station development. A lot of these, you probably notice in other communities, adjacent communities, this is a recent trend in the commercial development sphere in which there have been a lot of new car washes and gas stations popping up. So currently within the city, car washes and gas stations are allowed in the C3 zoning district through the special land use review process. However, when you look at the amount of vacant and available C3 land in the district, it's just, for some reason, hasn't turned over and been seen for this type of development. So the city does have some C2 zoned, that's community business, long-standing vacant sites, and they have been having trouble finding the right use to redevelop that property. So the Planning Commission, after much deliberation, concluded that possibly allowing lots that are zone C2 to be developed for these uses would be acceptable, provided they are developed correctly. To ensure these sites are developed correctly, they need to be large enough to accommodate the vehicular traffic and the queuing or the stacking lanes for car washes. And so the proposal in these amendments is to increase the minimum lot size for these uses to 1.75 acres. These uses would also be required to go through the special land use review process to ensure compatibility with any adjacent uses. So in that case, by making them special land use approval, no new car wash or gas station would be approved without the City Council consideration. So on August 8th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing regarding these proposed amendments. At the hearing, there were no negative comments or concerns raised regarding these proposed amendments. And so after the hearing, the Planning Commission did pass a motion to recommend that Council approve of this proposed amendment.
Thank you. Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to zoning ordinance section 154.005, section 154.137, section 154.138, and section 154.286, as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Discussion from the table.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
Mr. Ortega, you mentioned that currently there are only a couple of sites that would accommodate this.
That is correct.
Can you tell us where those sites are?
They're on, there's only a handful on the north side, on Middle Belt. The Maplewood lumber site is one. Most recently, the Bank of America site, because these are 1.75 acres or more in area.
And perhaps Rainey's too.
And perhaps Ramey's and
Rainey's too.
those others. And that's based on the current configuration of the lots. It would require, those are the ones under common ownership right now. In theory, someone that could accumulate property could develop another one, but once again, it would be mainly the north Middle Belt Road corridor, which would be the only place that would, has the C2 zoning and has the land that could potentially be developed.
Further comments?
Mayor,
Councilmember Karafotis.
I just have a couple questions. So it went from 10,000 square feet up to an acre and a half, which is 76,000 square feet. So that's a much larger, and that's to accommodate what? Those giant car washes that we're seeing all over?
Yes, so what it accommodates the queuing, because a lot of these facilities, they have automatic payment at the payment points. So they typically we usually see between 22 to 27 cars stacked in the waiting area. Some of the others I reviewed recently have that amount. Also, it accommodates the amount of land necessary for the amount of vacuuming stations. These new vacuuming stations don't have individual vacuums at each position. They have one common piece of equipment that's shared, but then they have they have at least usually about 10 to 15 spaces. But most key to this size requirement would be to have the setbacks from adjacent property, to have that amount of vacant land available, not vacant land, but unimproved land that's landscaped that could provide buffer between this use and adjacent uses.
And you talked about certain properties that might fit this. I mean, one was the Maplewood lumber, that's already taken. I mean, that person's developing the RC track, correct?
That is correct. They're on the case, but at the moment, they haven't submitted a building permit.
Okay, but someone owns that property and is trying to develop
Right,
it.
yes.
The other things that you mentioned, I mean, that's kind of like in our downtown, so we're deciding if we're going to let a bunch of car washes and gas stations in the downtown?
Well, it is the northern end of the downtown. It is planned in the master plan to be eventually to get to that point. But the idea would be to look at opportunities to have that redeveloped, because while it is in the downtown, it hasn't been developed for that either.
Do you know the reason why it wasn't in C2 allowed? Because, I mean,
In the past,
yeah,
probably they just wanted to focus on other areas of the city, because the C3 zoning district is typically on Ford Road, west of Merriman, and then on C3 is also, though, on Ford Road, east of Harrison over to Inkster. And those sites, they're not very deep, they're not very large, they can't really accommodate any kind of new car wash or gas station situation. They have legacy car washes, we have the older style that was just the one lane.
Yeah.
And even that, in order to accommodate that business, they had to acquire property south of the alley to have any kind of decent turning. And technically, that kind of use is no longer allowed in the city because they're using a public alley to accommodate their private property.
is there any reason why we want to change it instead of just make it the normal special use? Like if someone wanted to buy Maplewood lumber and come in with a car wash, they could just ask for a special use instead of it just being wide open, right?
Well, right now, it's only as a special use in the C3 district. So the first step would be to try and rezone a property to C3. So that would be, the planning commission did talk about this, and we thought about, well, what if we just allowed them, have them rezone it? But in these particular locations, the only other pieces of property that would be large enough to accommodate it would require a rezoning to C3 that goes against the master plan. Like you said, the Maplewood number and Bank of America site and others on Middle Belt are planned for downtown, the furthest point of downtown. And so the first step a property owner or an applicant would have to do is request a rezoning to C3 that would go contrary to the master plan.
Well, we're going contrary to the master plan by doing this, correct?
Well, this is something that we'd already have some drive-through uses and auto-oriented uses. It's a challenge for us because we want that pedestrian-oriented downtown. We want it on Ford Road, but we've struggled trying to accommodate that pedestrian character on Ford Road.
When the planning commission talked about all this, did anybody find out, like, how many of car washes are in the area? I mean, they just updated the one at Vinoy. We have the one right here in Westland. We have the one right here in Dearborn Heights. I mean, there's probably 4 of those big, huge car washes in 3 or 4 miles.
There are, and there are quite a few, but they also tend to have a loyal, well, not a loyal, but because they sell the
Membership.
monthly passes.
Right, like the one at Vinoy.
They tend to have a lot of them in areas, and that's one strategy. They have multiple locations so people can visit multiple. And then in others, they want to have that competition. It's kind of like how they tend to, have a drugstore across another drugstore. And for example, out in Canton, they have 1, 2, 3, at least 4 new ones. I reviewed another one that was potentially coming in as well on Canton Center, but it does seem,
I guess
it might seem contrary, but it's something that, once again, this is just the first attempt at trying to address the DDA's and planning commissions and council's idea of like trying to address these longstanding vacancies. This is our first attempt at something.
I understand that. My opinion is that it feels like things are happening in our downtown. We're finally getting these new stores. We have the bakery coming in, the yarn store coming in, the cat cafe. Things are starting to happen, and I just feel like this is kind of like, oh, well, we can't get anybody else, so let's let all the car washes and gas stations come into our downtown, which to me, that makes it feel like, again, like we're a pass-through city instead of let's stop and let's go to Garden City because we want to go shopping. No one's going to say, let's go to Garden City to get our car wash when there's one in every single city. And we already have a big, huge car wash like that. That's what it seems like to me. I mean, I think there was a reason when it was designed that it wasn't in C2 because we want to get these businesses in our downtown. I mean, I have a business in our downtown and wasn't able to change it because of this special use. Like, we had to do these certain things. I had to have retail there. And then we're going to say a gas station can open, and right next door to it. It's the same thing. I just think that we should be building our downtown and building our businesses with things that people want to come to, not just pass through Garden City, or can go anywhere else. There's 100 gas stations within 2 miles, and then we're going to open it up and get 3 new gas stations. I don't think that's how to build our downtown. Just my opinion. That's all.
Okay. I know when we met, it was myself, Councilmember Dole, and I believe Councilmember Witt. Are you there? When we met with the DDA and the Planning Commission on possibly changing some of these to allow it. But again, it still has to come before council to do an approval.
But it could come to council anyway. It could be a special use just like it is, instead of just opening it wide open and saying, we allow those things. Yes, we have to approve it, but it could be a special use just like anything else is.
It can't be a special use in a C2, correct?
No, it would be. I'm sorry.
could be.
The ordinance is specifically that it can only be in C2 with a special use approval. And you have those criteria, beginning with compatibility, consistency with the master plan, all these other different criteria of a special land use that they have to meet based on their site design, and they have to go through that process. It's
Right.
not permitted by right.
I know, but what I'm saying, we're going to put it on the list, right?
Yes, on the list of special uses, yes.
That's what I'm saying.
But we would still have to approve. If it stays in C3, if we don't change it,
Well, if
it
someone,
can't be there, right?
Correct.
right, but if someone comes to us and they have everything correct,
No, as long as if it remains C2, it's not an allowed use, even with the special land use request.
you mean if it remains C3?
If it's C3, yes, but if it remains C2, is that correct?
Well,
If it
no,
remains C2, it's not on the list of allowed business types.
No, currently, the way it is written is that car washes and gas stations require special use approval in the C3.
Right.
As proposed, this amendment in front of you would allow for car washes and gas stations as special use in the C2 when they have 1.75 acres or more.
It just seems odd that we have 2 or 3 places to accommodate only in C2 and we're going to approve it.
But the only reason for that would be rather than have a lower standard, then you'd have a lot more come in and not knowing if, A, the strategy would work, and B, if the sites are large enough to accommodate what we need for buffering. So the idea would be to rather than open the floodgates and start it for a lot of sites, start with a trickle, start with a little bit, see if it even works. And then also if, once again, it goes to the council. If you feel at that point that that's either enough or that's not appropriate at that point in time, you can say. But I think the planning commission was thinking, seeing what it looks like, see what we get in terms of that opportunity, if it works.
I understand the point. I do, I get it. Just with two properties that we could accommodate it, it's just odd that we would change it.
Further comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, when we had the joint meeting with the ZBA, Planning Commission, DDA, we were just talking about specifically, they had all mentioned kind of the tiredness of Middle Belt going north, and how some of the businesses don't look very nice.
I agree.
So we were looking at that. The size of the site also was one of the factors, is that, again, we didn't want to, a lot of our C2 is only 100 or 120 feet
Yes.
deep, and then there's an alley, and then there's houses. So we didn't want to open it up to any C2 property in the city. So it is allowed in the C2, but like Mario said, they would have to accommodate a lot of land in order to do so, or put together a lot of parcels. So we were putting it together to see what we could get out there. We've had inquiries on all of those land uses throughout the downtown, throughout the city, and we're just trying to see if we can get some redevelopment of some of the sites. Is it the use that is the best use? I'm not sure, but it is a use that will be able to redevelop the site, increase the tax base, and that's what we talked about at the joint meeting, was looking at some economic opportunities that we have out in the city. And so that's why we worked with the joint committee, putting it all forward at the time to, actually, the joint committee came up with the idea, looking at North Ford Road to see North Middle Belt, to see what we could do. They asked us to find the size of sites. They wanted to find out what property was, how deep it was from City Hall going all the way to Warren Road. And as soon as you get past the high school, it goes down to, again, those 100 and 120 feet deep parcels, so.
I believe we've had discussions with, I know the one car wash, they wanted to come in at Orange Jewelers, but a lot of the surveys that when we,
It was a gas station. I'm
gas
sorry.
station.
Okay, yeah.
But they had said that the car washes brought in a lot of traffic, a lot of people into the area. That's their surveys. I don't know if it's true or not, but,
I'm sure it's true.
but
To the gas station, or
Right.
to the, get your car washed. To the car wash, it brings them in.
all right,
I think, if I may,
Councilmember?
I think that there's always been a mentality that having something on a vacant piece of property is better than nothing. That's not always the case, though. And I think that, given that we have recently hired a community development director who really couldn't devote a lot of time to that position because you came in as interim city manager, I think that it might be in our best interest to allow him to go out and try to fill those vacancies with something that would better benefit our residents. Because I know, for one, when I drive down Ford Road to Dearborn Heights and I see that brand-new car wash right there, I think it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And sitting right there on Ford Road. These are properties that butt up, they're right on our main streets. And we have plenty of gas stations in town. We have plenty of car washes in town. And as Councilmember Carafota stated, right outside of town, I mean, we're a small town, so you need to get your car washed. You can pretty much, within a mile or two, get your car washed. I know that we had a very large gas station come in and inquire about property, not just at Orange, but also here at the corner, right next to our high school. I'm not real keen on having a gas station right next to our high school. So I think we're jumping the gun with this. I don't think we need to change it at this point in time. Maybe it is something we need to look at in the future if those properties are still vacant and we need to entice someone. But again, just putting something in a vacant property is not always the best recourse.
Mayor? I feel that Councilwoman Dold is absolutely correct. We finally have Mr. Miller that is going to be able to do something full-time, and it feels like our city's just like on a upwave, and that we're starting to get these new businesses, and instead of the old mentality of, let's just fill it to get it filled. I mean, the properties that you named, only one of them is for lease. The other two are owned. So to say we're going to change that just because one property fits it, maybe Mr. Miller will dedicate some time to finding people that can go into the Bank of America site, or, you know, there's other businesses that are coming to us now, and I just feel like we should just maybe hold off on gas stations and car washes. That's all.
Mr. Miller.
I do want to just state that this is part of the economic development process, though. We had a joint meeting with the committee. We took everything they found there, we put it to words, and we brought it to you. So I have been working on things, and we have been asked about these land uses specifically. And so I don't want you to think I'm not doing something.
we know you
I am doing something, and what I brought before you is not. No, but what I brought before you is not what was talked about, and we've tried to gather all of this information. When we had the joint meeting, we've identified sites, we looked at land uses, we've done all that. And so that is part of the economic development process. And to get your, we should be able to support all the businesses in the city and to have uses. Unfortunately, Ford Road and Middle Belt are auto-oriented roadways. And so we do, we talked about also during that joint meeting about having pedestrian orientation coming to the backs of the businesses as opposed to the fronts of the businesses. So, but that was all in the thought and all of the process that was used to get here this far. Just so you know that I was working on this and doing that. So
We know you're working hard.
Basically, what you're saying is this is a result of our meeting with all the groups.
yes.
So,
And then finally, just to point out that we definitely want to make sure we preserve the master plan's goals and ideas, and the main thing being having that pedestrian-oriented downtown focus at Middle Belt and Ford Road. And so when someone came in and attempted to put a gas station right at that corner, we thought this would be another way to try and redirect those efforts too, to try and direct them away from that. So maybe it's something that needs to have further review, but that was just one of the other mentalities, is rather than having people think that they could put, because I do get a lot of questions too about on Ford Road right near Middle Belt wanting other drive-through uses, and we're trying to direct them away from that location.
But we wanted to direct them away, but still keep them in the city.
Yeah, exactly.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
so I remember back to the meeting and all of us there listening through Matt and Mario talking to get all the presentations through. Everyone within the table was, ready to try and get some businesses filled, and I thank you guys for both taking the steps to put all of this together. Knowing me, I like to try and stick a little bit more local with things. Unfortunately, the car washes in our city can't allow my vehicle through it because I could cause damage to either my vehicle or the equipment. So if it is, a car wash that happens to come in, they are larger car washes that would fit my tire on my vehicle, which would damage the other, 3 that we have around in the city, because their tracks aren't big enough for my tires alone. So I'd love to have something local that could fit my vehicle. I know a bunch of other people who drive trucks, same issues. They can't fit in a lot of the basic car washes. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some of these businesses filled. Seeing, Bank of America leave was very sad as somebody in the banking industry myself, and seeing branches closed. But if we could get something opened and something redeveloped on the property, I would love it. I'm grateful that it's going to stick as still a special land use request and would still come to us for approval with the site plans. So I'm in favor of it.
Comments from the table. Councilmember Lynch.
One other question. Let's say without this, somebody wanted to come in and turn Bank of America into this car wash gas station situation. They still could do it? Are you saying if they got the rezoning for it, correct?
That's the thing. Their first step would be to rezone the property to C3. And so eventually would come to you guys and after the planning commission's public hearing recommendation. But it would require them to, the first thing we look at is our master plan, and that's, so they'd have to comply with the master plan too, so.
And as you said, it would go against it in the,
To rezone it to C3, yeah, because rezoning it to C3 would open it up to all of our commercial uses, including regulated uses, including uses like, smoke shops, adult uses, those sort of things.
So this action is completely in compliance with our master plan?
The zoning ordinance isn't, it's in compliance with our economic development aspects of the master plan. With the regards to the location of the downtown, we are the master plan does propose expansion of the downtown. It does expand it to eventually go all the way to Maplewood currently in that plan. But it also proposes expanding the downtown north of Beechwood to another block and go all the way up to the next block up there. And so what the intent would be, to see if that eventually eventually even need. So one of the other aspects of that is, the master plan, in the 5-year review, the planning commission was wondering if the land use designations were appropriate because it's such a large amount of area, it's a large square footage, and right now we want to make sure we focus the redevelopment efforts on the Kmart site rather than allow for expansion currently. So if we allowed for expansion of the downtown to the north already, then we're kind of spreading out what demand we might have for the downtown uses we want at Kmart.
Further comments from the table?
It just seemed to be enough. There was already quite a few permitted uses allowed in C2. I just don't think we need to add those two to them. It's too close to downtown to have gas stations and car washes.
Okay. Comments from the public?
Mayor, members of the council, Anthony Tackett, Fairfield Street. I'd just like to offer my support to Mayor Pro Tem Dold and Councilmember Karafotis' position. If we're looking to create a walkable downtown, I believe putting car traffic that's going to be crossing the traffic or crossing the driveways and sidewalks where people are going to be walking back and forth is going to do nothing but prevent that from happening. Not to mention that as we continue to fill these places with places like the Cat Cafe or other sociable establishments, as we continue to put mechanics, shops, gas stations, and these kind of dirty, places that are also, in the case of a gas station and a car wash, potential hazardous material sites as well. So if there's something that goes wrong, if an employee mishandles, oil drum or something like that, we could be potentially exposing our public in a walkable zone to increased hazards. So I would just like to consider that as well before you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from the public?
How you doing? So 2 questions really. One was, has there already been any of these like larger car washes that have already inquired about this space, or is this just like a DDA kind of opinion that they want to do with the spaces?
The city is
Mayor,
inquiries from multiple real estate people around for anywhere in the city.
It's more for
it really is time for comment, not a time to go back and forth, sir.
Okay.
All right. So,
All right.
you have a comment.
So I guess a comment, I'll rephrase the next question, would be, I would be, as of now, I agree with what you guys are saying, but I feel like I would be open to it if there were kind of a list that I could see of other businesses that the rezoning would help out that weren't the car washes and gas stations, but that's it.
Did you want to say your name, honey?
What is that?
Do you want to say your name?
My name? Tyler Rich.
Thank you. Further comments from the public?
Hello, Mayor and Council. John Talbert from Belton Street. I know that there's a car wash right at Inkster and Florence that's getting upgraded right now. So hopefully they're putting a bigger rack in for you so you can get your truck in there. So they totally gutted that thing and looks like they're trying to bring it up to the 21st century. So I mean, with that said, I think we got plenty of car washes around us. I don't really see a need for another car wash in Garden City. Okay?
Thank you. Further comments from the public? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
One aye. Councilmember Lynch?
I'm
You
torn on this
supported
one. I'm torn on this one. I really am.
Okay, opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay.
We should do a roll call vote, possibly.
We're gonna have to do a roll call.
thank you.
roll
All
vote.
right.
We can always come back to it,
Councilmember
but
Witt.
you can't
Aye.
go the other way.
Councilmember Lynch.
I'm going to say nay.
Councilmember Squires.
I think I'm going to have to say nay as well.
Councilmember Karafotis.
Nay.
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
Nay.
Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Motion fails, 4-2. Okay, item 4 is zoning ordinance amendment to the accessory building standards and residential parking standards. Mr. Ortega.
So another aspect the Planning Commission has been discussing are these two topics in front of you, because the Planning Commission routinely considers amendments in order to update requirements of the ordinance to make them more modern, to reflect modern standards, while as also determining which regulations may no longer be needed. So this first set of amendments is addressing accessory building standards. Some of the highlights include language that concurs with the state law requirement that all structures comply with the Michigan Building Code, so cleaning up the language that way. But these amendments through discussion have also would be allow for lots that are greater than 220,000 square feet, lots greater than 20,000 square feet in area to actually have a larger amount of accessory structures on the site. There are also new standards to require greater separation between those collection boxes. We've seen a uptick in inquiries from those, so this would require a significant setback between the properties. And then the amendments would specify when construction dumpsters can be located on a lot. This is an attempt to shore up the language so that code enforcement has more ability to specifically regulate when construction dumpsters can and can't be left on a piece of property. Second set of amendments is regarding residential parking standards. Alternative methods of paving would be permitted to allow for pervious surfaces, which would allow rainwater to absorb into the ground. Increased driveway widths would be permitted. This would allow for a modest increase in the driveway width to allow for some of our smaller lots to have additional parking on the site. And then also lots on major roads would be allowed driveway configurations. They no longer have to exit reverse into oncoming traffic. A lot of times if you have just one driveway into a single-family home, sometimes you have to back out into Inkster or Cherry Hill or something like that. So this would allow for a T-turnaround so they could exit safely. So on August 8th, once again, the Planning Commission held another public hearing regarding these amendments. There were no negative comments regarding these proposed changes, and so the Planning Commission did pass a motion that recommends approval of these amendments.
Okay, thank you. Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Dole.
to make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to zoning ordinance section 154.005, section 154.022, section 154.025, section 154.069, and Appendix A.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Karafotis. Comments from table.
Mayor,
Councilmember Karafotis.
this is one of the requirements that we're putting the ret wall back, right? I know
That's
that-
correct.
Okay, great. I know a lot of residents have recently asked about that, and with rat problems, I think that's a great idea. And then I did see in there that it says something about if you have your deck attached to your house, that's changed.
What it was, that was an attempt to clarify the language because technically the way new decks are currently constructed is they don't actually have to be physically attached to the house. So in some instances, some overzealous property owners might think that then they no longer have to abide by the setback requirements. That language is to specify whether the deck is physically attached to a house or directly adjacent to the house. as the new standards allow, that deck still has to meet our setback requirements, meaning that it just has to be the same setbacks as the principal structure.
Okay, and then the last question is, it's allowing someone with a larger lot to have a larger, like garage or pole barn or something, right? Like, I know before it was just, everybody has the same amount, whether you have a little tiny yard or an acre. So this would let them put out a larger structure, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Further comments from table?
Yeah, I've got a couple
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
easy ones. So the collection boxes. Unless I missed it, I'm just seeing that they have to be 2,000 feet away from another lot where a box is, and they can't interfere with vehicle and pedestrian traffic, that sort of thing. Could there be any language written into this where those collection boxes are toward the rear of the parking lots, or, because quite often they're right out at the road?
Yeah, in this case, the amendments didn't address that, mainly because it's a topic that didn't come up by the Planning Commission. They felt like as long as it's something that wasn't interfering with traffic circulation and taking up an occupied, a needed parking, that was appropriate. They wanted to, they guess they were focused more on that separation, so that we don't have one lot right after another, 3, 4, 5 in a row. That's what they were focused on at this point in time. But it's a topic we could consider in the future.
Yeah, I would like to see that added in somehow. The only other question I had, and I just may be having a moment here, but under the parking and driveway standards, it says in number 3, it's speaking about residences with detached garages. A driveway shall extend in front of the house by no more than 20% of the width of the front of the house.
Yes.
So if you have a house that's 40 feet wide,
So then that would be 8 feet.
right? So your driveway can't extend more than 8 feet from the front of your house to the road?
So, no, I'm sorry. So the way that's intended to be worded, the width of the house, so the width of the in front of the house. So like when you're pulling into your home, into your lot, typically you go a straight shot. You go straight shot and go to your garage door or you go to your back. This would allow for a slight bump out to the side, whereas some of the larger lots have that larger area like on their side yard that's outside of the front of their house. They have their bump out over there, so a car can park there. People on the smaller lots, they wanted to have since they don't have as much side yard setback right now, think about those lots where you've got house, driveway, and the driveway is only 10 feet wide, and then you got the next house right next to it. They can't go over onto the neighbor's property. They don't have that side yard. So the idea would be to allow for, in that case, most of them would be allowed a 5-foot little bump out into the side in front of the house to allow for enough car to go around. That was the intent.
Okay, it wasn't clear. I kept reading
Yeah,
that and thinking, am I missing something? Because that makes no sense.
Yeah, we realized that after this language that it's going to be necessary. We're going to, the building department, we're going to create some graphics to graphically show what the alternative is. Because we do have some graphics right now that we hand out to the residents. So this will be updated to reflect these new standards.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can I get clarification? So in other words, a 40-foot house could have 2 cars parked parallel to each other in the front?
In theory, yeah, depending on the amount of size they have on their particular lot. But at the most they could have is only about 8 foot of driveway in front of the house. And a lot of these homes that we were looking at, because we did a study of these situations, is those ranch-style homes that have the door right next to the driveway.
Right.
So typically, some people will have like a sidewalk leading up to the door, like a little 3 foot of space that's the grass, and then the driveway.
Right.
This would allow them to pave over that 3 foot and then have that extra space so they can move out. It's
So they
not-
could take the sidewalk and the 3-foot
Correct.
space?
Yes.
I'm not liking that one.
It is something that was a lot of deliberation because, how does that impact the look of it? But the main issue we kept hearing was that the amount of drivers, and even in a ranch home, you're going to have potentially three or four drivers in theory. So they wanted to accommodate their ability, so that's why they opted for this.
Further comments from the table?
Mayor, I have one more question about the collection boxes. That's just for commercial, correct?
Yes.
And does it include the recyclable stuff like the school has in their parking lots?
No, not in schools. Schools are exempt.
Okay.
Okay, further comments from the table? From the
Yeah.
public?
Mayor,
Councilmember White?
so with the driveway, the bump outs, do we know, let's just say roughly how many properties might potentially do something like that, pouring more concrete? Do we know what kind of an impact that'll have? Because like the house I purchased back in November, during the spring has a pretty bad flooding issue because it's right across from the baseball and softball diamonds. And it's a lot of the concrete in that area that causes a lot of that flooding, as well as not great drainage. So do we know what kind of an impact adding extra concrete on, X amount of properties might affect going forward in this case?
So that is always the million-dollar question with regards to this. We address some of that by just trying to promote pervious surface, trying to encourage people to use brick paver, a certain type of paver. Technically, they even have asphalt and concrete that allows for water to absorb through. We know that sometimes that can be cost prohibitive, but we wanted to at least codify it and allow it so that, yes, people could do this. That's one way. The other way we're going to continue this discussion is by talking about lot coverage in general, because right now there's specific maximum percentage of building that can fit on a lot. A lot of communities do consider this issue by also regulating the amount of hard surface on a lot, because then you allow for rainwater areas, grassy areas to absorb that rainwater. They wanted to focus on this point right now. We're going to do a more detailed study about how that would impact and how we would modify the existing standard. Typically, what you'll do is have 1% for building and then 1% for building plus pervious surface. So that's how it would address that in the future, potentially.
Okay.
Mayor, could we,
Councilmember Carefotis?
up to Councilwoman Dole, but I mean, could we possibly amend the motion to leave that one part out for that ordinance and then get more information, like you said, about rainwater and all those things and approve the rest?
You do have the right to omit a section. So, I know that part of there wasn't a study, but anybody that has a house has the right, if this is passed, has the right to do so.
I know that's been a big issue. I know exactly what you're talking about. Everybody that lives in a Garden City 3-bedroom brick ranch knows they don't have enough parking, but, so I understand, but I know exactly what Councilman Witt is talking about. I think a lot of people have issues with flooding. There's a house on my street that has nothing but concrete and everyone else's yard floods.
Yeah.
So that may be something that we need to look a little bit further into before we say yes.
I couldn't let my dog out this spring without paw prints all over my floor, so.
One other way that this was attempted to do right now is currently in the ordinance, there is a standard that says no more than 30% of the front yard can be pavement. We found that was hard to apply in a practical standpoint of trying to convey that to residents and knowing them how they could divvy up basically their permitted 30%. So this verbiage was intended to replace that, and it does. I definitely understand that, the concern about the impervious surface, but we do think that tackling that next step will probably be more effective than leaving it now, where people, in theory, they could take that 30% and like spread it around in their front yard.
Wouldn't that, I guess technically, most people would probably put it right in front of their porch.
Right, yeah.
As opposed to the side lot, which
Yep.
I don't think that would affect the flooding to the short side of their driveway. I think the
Yeah.
flooding would affect themselves.
Right,
If it's in front of their porch, it would probably affect them more than their neighbors.
And whenever anybody does pave, they are required to get a flat work permit, and that flat work permit requires them, they're supposed to slope the sidewalks and the driveways, so they do not have rainwater dump onto their nascent property owners. They are not allowed to do that. They can dump it into the street if there's a a catch basin for rainwater, but they're not permitted to have it slope towards the adjacent neighbor.
Mayor?
Councilmember Squires.
We had that done at our house some years back and got the special permit or whatever the cement guy did. And I've had no problem with water whatsoever. You know, it's slanted down, and it also makes it nice if there's more cars during a snow emergency. I've even let my neighbors, you know, use part of my driveway at that time, because I know that is a big problem with too many
Yeah.
cars, so.
Good question.
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
So theoretically, couldn't they put this on the other side of their front yard? Or could they put it right up the middle of their front yard?
And only in terms of whether it'd be effective, in terms of like wide enough to accommodate a car. They would also have to get another curb cut permit from the DPW department. And the idea of like looking at the lots that we looked at, it was always on those streets on the east side of town where it was always house, driveway, house, driveway, house, driveway. And the property lines were right there, you know. You know, 3 foot, they only had 3 foot on one side and then the 9 foot on the other side where the driveway was, and it was always those. I can't recall off the top of my head, not to say they don't exist, but of any that might have that situation. But we do have, but actually, then the other reason that this is just cleared up a little is that those larger lots, what we tend to see then is then they have a circular driveway. They have that circular driveway, so that second curb cut is for the exit of the driveway. And these circular driveway standards have been revised to make sure there's a certain amount of green space between the driveway and the sidewalk, and then a certain amount of green space between the driveway and the home. So we upped those so that way there's more configuration that way. So, because that's what typically we see is like, if it's wide enough to get that second curb cut, they want to use it for like a circular driveway.
Yeah, I don't think most people would do it that way. I was just saying, with it written the way it is, you could theoretically put the concrete anywhere you wanted.
Yeah, we can definitely look at being explicitly include that next time in terms of.
Mr. Smith.
Oh, so I don't, Mayor and Council, so I normally don't chime in, but maybe to put Mayor Pro Tem Dole at ease, if we're looking at 154.0693, we're like, if they have a driveway, what's stopping them from putting that build out on the other side, correct? So the way I read it, and this is just me reading, is lots with no garage or a detached garage shall be permitted one driveway that shall not exceed 20 feet in width. And then it says, a driveway shall extend in front of the house by no more than 20%. So the way I read that is they can bump out on their existing driveway, but they wouldn't be permitted to be like, okay, here's my one.
Because it says one
and then
driveway.
one driveway.
Yes, yeah, I agree. That is how it reads.
I don't know if that makes it, changes anything, but that's.
Further comments from the table?
I was just playing devil's advocate.
From the public? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Were we going to amend it?
I don't know. If that's what you want.
And is that what we want to do?
That would be between you and Councilmember Karafotis, because you guys made the motion and supported it.
Which one was it?
Number
154.0693 on page 5.
When we were, yeah, number 3. So we want to omit, so I'd like to amend the motion to approve the proposed amendments to the zoning sections previously mentioned with the, and omitting section 154.069, number 3.
Support.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may. In order to just allow for application of this while we develop the new language to address this issue, it would be my recommendation to possibly just eliminate the second sentence So where it talks about extending in front of the house? Because that way it
Correct.
allows people without a detached garage to still
Yes.
have one driveway.
I'm open to that.
So that way we can eliminate that issue until we can satisfactorily address it.
Okay,
Is that
so I need to amend the motion
is that
again
okay? Sorry.
to approve the proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance sections previously mentioned, but omitting from section 154.069, number 3, the sentence within that starts with "a driveway shall extend in front of a house," to just include that sentence, or to omit that sentence.
So that is A3, omitting the second
A3.
sentence. All right,
Support.
Or an easier way to say it, yes, A3, omit the second sentence.
okay. Yeah,
Sentence, wouldn't it?
Third,
Residences, and then lots with no garage, and then third one would be a driveway.
it is the third sentence.
2, 3, the third sentence,
Third
yes.
sentence.
That's with no garage.
Do you have all that, Mr. Smith?
He's got it.
Cross down what I need to.
Okay. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that motion passes 6-0. Okay, item 5 is a special land use. That's to request a minor auto facility where Hollywood Sound is. Mr. Ortega.
Last one. So at 30254 Ford Road, this lot is located at the northeast corner of Ford and Henry Ruff. It's currently occupied by Hollywood Sound, so it's a minor auto repair garage that's on the southern end of the lot. The applicant wants to demolish that existing Hollywood Sound building, construct a new, slightly larger garage on the northern side of the site, and then construct a new 7,500 square foot multi-tenant commercial building along Ford Road. So this lot is zone C2, community business, and within the C2, minor auto repair garages require special land use approval. So on August 8th, the Planning Commission held a hearing, public hearing. At the hearing, there were no negative comments regarding this proposed special land use. So the Planning Commission considered all these issues and has recommended that City Council grant special land use approval. So at the same meeting, the Planning Commission did grant special approval contingent upon the applicant providing a revised site plan to deal with some minor issues related to some detailed information on the site plan. So with this special land use, the council has 3 options before you tonight. Number 1, after deliberation, the council can make a determination that no additional discussion beyond tonight is necessary. So then council would agree with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and grant final approval. Or you can choose to delay the project to hold further discussion on this proposed redevelopment and request that they be scheduled on a new agenda item in the future. Or option 3 would be to deny the proposal.
Okay, and motion is in order. Let's start with that.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
motion to request approval of a minor auto repair facility in the C2 Community Business Zoning District.
Option 1,
I'm sorry,
right?
yes, option 1.
Just to accept the Planning Commission's
I
recommendation.
move to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation. I always screw that one up.
Is there support?
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. And I will say this, the only reservation I had there is a residence just north of that empty lot, and from my understanding, he was at the meeting and didn't voice any concern about this proposal, so I'm good with it. Further comments from the table?
And that was what I was going to ask. Was it going to impact that one house? But if he didn't say anything.
I was told he was at the meeting and didn't have any objections, so.
Okay.
They are placing quite a row of, I can't say the word.
Arborvitae.
Yeah.
And actually, the Planning Commission, even though they looked at the originally proposed, they have requested larger additional shrubs between the building and the property to create a larger buffer.
Mayor, I think we all had the same question. If Dave back there had been asked, or if he knew about it. What about, because it's a special land use, weren't the other residents supposed to receive a postcard or something saying this was going to go in? Did that happen?
Everyone within 300 feet of the property was notified.
Okay, thank you.
Further comments from the table?
I have one more question.
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
So the lot size is more than sufficient. Is the lot size still acceptable if you subtract the area that the new building's going to take?
You mean the multi-tenant building or the?
Yes, the multi-tenant
So
building.
the idea of the site doesn't preclude
Doesn't
having a
matter.
mixed use on it. So as long as the auto-oriented part of it doesn't meet all our dimensional requirements for traffic circulation and parking spaces and aisle widths, then that would be a problem. But they've designed it so it accommodates the parking for the commercial businesses that would be on Ford Road and the employees and the parking for the service vehicles for the auto repair. And as a minor auto repair, they are not allowed to park vehicles overnight.
Further comments?
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I know it was said about the additional shrubbery towards the residential on the backside. Does this, because the building is being demoed and changes are being made to the entire lot, with the approval of the site plan and stuff like, is there anything for additional beautification of the property required as like, you know, when Taco John's was trying to come in and we were like pushing for specialty stuff there?
Due to the configuration of the site and the fact that the building is going to be 10 feet away from the Ford Road lot line, there isn't any accommodation, any land space to accommodate exorbitant amount of landscaping. They will have street trees and along Ford Road, and they will have, they have met the required parking standards, landscaping standards.
Okay.
But they're just, in order to address the issue and make sure enough parking serviced it so they're not parking on the street, the amount of land was used.
Understandable. Thank you.
Okay. Further comments from the table? From the public? Okay, so the motion is to accept the Planning Commission's option 1 to take their recommendation. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6 is the Santaland Parade for road closure.
Mayor,
Councilmember Squires.
I move to approve a resolution for road closures for the 2024 Santaland Parade to be held on Saturday, November 30th, 2024.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Further discussion from the table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 7 is Public Service Credit Union authorized signers. As you know, Tim Gibbons will be starting September 3rd, and as city manager, so we need a motion to remove Dale Doherty and to approve adding Tim Gibbons.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve adding Timothy Gibbons as an additional signer to PSCU accounts and remove Dale Doherty.
Support.
Councilmember Karafotis, supported. Further comments from the table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Item 12, we have no other business.
Mayor, actually, Can-
Councilmember Witt?
just because the vote did get shot down for 11B3, is that something, because we voted it down, that would be taken back to the Planning Commission to be brought back at a later date potentially with, okay, that's all that I'm looking for, thank you.
Well, not necessarily, though. I don't, there was no direction to go back to amend language, though. So that's not what I read from the motion.
Okay.
Is that correct?
He's just
Yes.
asking if they could come up with the same motion again. Or the
Well,
same-
we could come up with the same motion again. It's not like if it fails, it can't come back. Is that what you're concerned about, maybe?
No, I'm more or less, if they make a new recommendation, slightly changing maybe some of the requirements or something different to meet the demands of council members, is it, would be brought back to the Planning Commission to rework it?
from what I hear today, I don't see that it's a use that would be permitted, and so I don't see any direction any other way.
But if they chose to, if they looked at it and said, let's look at this, they could choose to do it.
They could choose to do so, yes.
Okay, item 13 is public comment. Anybody wishing to speak? You have 3 minutes on non-agenda items only. Hopefully you filled out your comment card. Please state your name, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. Kelly Bailey, Gulfview Street. Let me just find my little letter I wrote myself so I could read it better for you. I wanted to say that on July 21st, we had multiple events going on in the city. The Lucky Squirrel, which I have volunteered at for many years, was going on, along with Garden City's first annual, well, the Goodfellows' first annual Christmas in July event, which I'm also a longtime volunteer with the Goodfellows, as many of you have been, along with your spouses, over the years. I just wanted to express my disappointment and my sadness that I did not see much participation from any of the council. And you seem to forget the true meaning of that is the children. And that's what this whole organization is about. And so I just wanted to put it out there that I was saddened to not see so many of you that I'm used to seeing at community events. So I just want you to know that it was a successful event, and it will continue with or without your guys' support, but hopefully you will remember the true mission of the Goodfellows is the children. And thank you guys again.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? No other comments? Okay. City Manager's report.
Yes, I just wanted to thank the council for their trust in me during this transition time as the interim city manager. We were able to get through the agendas, get everything accomplished that we needed to do to keep the city moving forward. And again, thank you to the council. I also want to thank the staff that, I kind of told them, come to me with solutions, not problems, to help reduce the amount of problems that we needed to solve. But I'm looking forward to Tim starting, and thanks again. Right.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Nothing other than condolences to the family of Ruthie Short. She was a pillar of the community, and like I said, still an active member of the Board of Review. We had to set up a Zoom training for her, continuing at this was last year, so like 93 years old, so, but she'll be missed.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
I have a few things tonight. Since it's right on the top of my pile here, I'm going to start with the elementary schools are doing their annual Bounce Back Return to Learn. That's this Thursday from 4 to 7 at Memorial School. It's in the backyard of the school. It's a free event. They have food, they have bounce houses, the fire truck's going to be there, the police will be there with the canine petting zoos, Kiwanis will be there giving away free books. So make sure you go to that. And speaking about the schools, I just wanted to put a quick thank you in there to everyone that voted to approve their sinking fund. The previous sinking fund, they are on track with everything they said they were going to do with that money. They're on track and they're on budget. So I'm sure that they'll continue that as we move forward with the renewal for that. I was asked to let everybody know about the USO show at our Strait Farmhouse Museum. We have a World War II veteran and 3 actual Rosies will be in attendance. They also have the Depot Town Big Band playing, swing dancers performing, and a pinup contest. And it doesn't specify female or male, so go for it. Tickets are available online or at the Farmhouse Museum. They're $10. For more information, you can go to the Strait Farmhouse website, or you can contact Kim Marquette at 734-812-1559. So we get, let's see. Speaking about school, kind of jumping back a little bit, I want to make sure that I welcome all the students back to school, and don't forget to be careful around the buses. Too often we see people speeding past those flashing lights, and we just can't do that. I do have a quick question about the street sweeping, Mr. Miller. With the issues that we've been having with the garbage pickup, how are we going to work around that? We'd be paying the street sweepers to really not sweep everything if the garbage is still out.
I did talk to Mr. Ruthenberg from Priority about that. I think DPW did also. They were supposed to have 6 extra trucks in town this week to make sure there were no garbage cans. If there's an issue, then I'm sure we will probably go after them to pay for the street sweeper to come in again. But we were told that everything should be good, and they are bringing in extra trucks to make sure there isn't an issue.
Okay. 2 more quick things. I am also the liaison that attends the Conference of Western Wayne. It's 18 different communities that are represented once a month. And I don't know if anyone's aware, but I was just sent a resolution that the executive board of the CWW has sent to Wayne County. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has been working on a multi-year project to remove radiation waste from a site in Niagara, in New York, the state of New York. Anyways, that radioactive and hazardous material waste is scheduled to be shipped to Wayne County, to Belleville, to our hazardous waste disposal site there. And we're talking a lot. We're talking 25 semi-trailers a week for 4+ months. There's just a lot of this coming in. So some of the problems that they found, number one, Wayne County was not even notified that this was coming in for beginners. And these are semi-tractor trailers that are going to be traveling on our roads coming in. So they're worried about the public safety issues. We haven't been notified. Wayne County officials and our residents have no say in this as it comes in. So they did send a resolution asking that basically that this not happen. This is already the end of August, so I'm really not holding out a lot of hope that anybody has changed anything with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but possibly in the future, they will at least notify us in time for something to happen. So, but I did want to let everybody just be aware of that. That's one of the type of things that we go over with that. And last but not least, there's been a lot of talk about the Goodfellows in the last few weeks, and I just want to put out there, if anybody has any questions at all about the Goodfellows, you can contact me, or you can go on the Goodfellows Facebook page and send a question over, and somebody will get back with you. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lynch.
Yes. I had the honor yesterday of being the officiant for a wedding. So I want to congratulate Dave and Brandy Zingalewski and their blended family of 4 teenage girls. I believe Dave has been living in Garden City for a while. Brandy was born and raised in Garden City and continues to raise her daughter in Garden City. So this is an exciting thing for their families. And then I, too, wanted to give my condolences to Ruth Benson Short and her family on the passing of Ruth. It just so happened when I first became mayor in Garden City, I married Ruth and her second husband, Bob. It was one of the very first things that I did after becoming mayor. So Ruth has always been a real sweetheart of a gal and just loved Garden City to the nth degree. We will miss her. And that's all that I had.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Witt.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a kudos to the Garden City Community Theater Program on a wonderful performance. I went Saturday evening. Seeing Councilmember Earl trying to run around the stage in pool flippers was a sight to see. If you missed it, I'm very sorry. But they did a wonderful job, as always. It's good seeing community members involved in the arts. And with that, I don't have anything else.
Thank you. Councilmember Squires.
Just a couple things. My condolences also to the family of Ruth Short. I've known her for so many years, and it's a great loss for Garden City. And also, I would like to thank Mr. Miller for stepping up and taking over the city manager job as interim. We appreciate all your help, and you've done a fantastic job.
Right.
So thank you.
Right, you're welcome.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Karafotis.
I just have a few things. I also wanted to say thanks to Mr. Miller. He far exceeded my expectations. I knew he would do a great job. Regarding the street sweeping, I did have a couple residents ask me about becoming more aware. I know it goes out on Nixle, but I've been in other cities where they actually have signs up in that block area so that more people know. Because if you don't have Nixle and you're not on Facebook, people don't know street sweeper is coming tomorrow.
I know there are signs put out there. I don't think there's a ton on it's not on every block, but they are put up in the general area.
So maybe something else to think about.
Something we could possibly put up more.
And then I did want to address what Kelly said about the 2 events in the same day. I did want to let everybody know that we are working on a calendar so that multiple events can be posted so that different groups will know when something else is coming up and they don't schedule things on the same day. I think that's going to be very helpful for our community. So that's going to be for all the nonprofit groups to put their events on, and that's going to be great. I also wanted to say that our Meals on Wheels program is in desperate need for drivers. They lost more than a few drivers to a lot of different reasons. So if you're interested, even if you want to drive for a couple hours on one day, you can call the Wayne County Senior Services at 734-326-4607. Again, that's for the Meals on Wheels. We really need drivers. We're almost to 100 people that need meals between Garden City and Westland, and we don't have enough people at all. And the last thing I want to ask about is back in April of '23, I asked about updating our master plan. Now it's almost September of '24, and we still haven't really moved forward very far. It was last September that McKenna brought their recommendations, and the Planning Commission had said their recommendations, they used an old census from 2010, and they were supposed to redo that, because we have a 2020 census, and we haven't heard anything. That's been a year. Our original master plan is from 2015 with some amendments from 2017. Things have really changed with COVID. I mean, all our zoning, we don't need offices everywhere. Big box stores aren't coming in. We need to update our master plan, and I'm not sure what I know there's a lot been going on, but if that's something we could really focus on over the winter when things kind of slow down, I think it's very important that we do that. Again, I'm just happy to say that we're getting several new businesses. I'm excited.
A lot of businesses coming in. That it? Thank you. I have a couple things. I'll start. I know Mayor Pro Tem Dole mentioned the USO show. Farmhouse, Straight Farmhouse also has a Oktoberfest food truck coming in on October 12th from noon to 8 p.m. at the farmhouse. They also have, there's the food truck. They also had a road rally coming up on September 29th. It's check-in at 2:45, starts at 3 o'clock, and you reach your final destination by 6 p.m. You, once again, can get a hold of Kim Marquette over at the Straight Farmhouse or Lisa Gibbons, and they will set you up with that. I also have condolences to, obviously, the Short family, and also to Sean Powers, who has been a longtime Garden City resident. She passed away recently. Sorry to her family for their loss. As Councilman Witt said, Mamma Mia was a great play. On Friday, I went, and Father Alexandrios, Councilman Earl, running around there was quite a scene. But the kids and the adults that came in on the summer program, it was a great event again. I know there's been talk about the sidewalk grant that we got, and I know Mr. Miller put out a a letter to the council. There's a lot of things that have to go forward on that the county makes us fill out and go through, and we will be working with Tim when he gets in, Gibbons, as far as setting up how we're going to implement it and kind of set up parameters and see how much money we'll be able to pay for. We get 2.5 million. Some of it's going to go to probably our engineers to see how many sidewalks we actually need, how much we can afford, and then there may be a percentage or something toward each house. It's not going to be like a first come, first serve. Everybody try to get on a list. There is no list, but there will be steps being taken that's fair for everybody involved. So I'm sure once Mr. Gibbons gets in here, we will take a closer look at that and set something up with the council. Other than that, I don't believe I have anything else. No further business. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.